Now, President Obama facing criticism for his outreach to the presidents of Nicaragua and Venezuela, including his handshake with Hugo Chavez. So here's what the president had to say post-game.
It's unlikely that as a consequence of me shaking hands or having a polite conversation with Mr. Chavez that we are endangering the strategic interests of the United States. If the question, Dan, is how does this play politically? I don't know.
In the pundit pit today, Bernard Whitman, former pollster for President Clinton, KT McFarland, former Pentagon spokesperson, and Brandon Bryce, business and policy analyst for HipHopRepublican.com. Good morning to all three of you.
Good morning.
KT, let me start with you. How do you take the fact that we saw these photos of a good handshake and a big smile between Obama and Chavez, and now he says, you know, look, I don't know whether or not this is going to help relations, but it doesn't hurt national security.
Well, that's wrong. I mean, you know, the point is he's gone, he's had a big apology tour. He's apologized in Europe. He's more or less apologized to Iran. He's apologized to the Russians. He's now been to Latin America and apologized there. What are you getting for it? One thing to apologize, but what's the payback? So far, Europe rolled him on contributing to the global financial crisis. The Russians, they haven't really decided yet. Iran clearly thumbed their nose, and he had to listen to Ortega of Nicaragua give an hour rant about America's terrible, and then Chavez of Argentina talked about, I mean, Venezuela talked about, you know, you have a stench and you're an ignoramus. So I'm not sure we're getting much for this.
Okay, Bernard, I know what you're going to say is that if you play nicey nice, that you might have a chance to have them come to your side of thinking.
Nothing drives me more crazy than when Republicans confuse a willingness to engage in dialogue with weakness. To me, it is ludicrous to somehow suggest that if we stick our heads in the sand or pretend these countries don't exist, that somehow connotes strength. The truth is we are much more likely to ultimately get what we want by engaging in dialogue with these folks than by simply ignoring them. And the fact that he shook hands with a guy who, Obama admits, is a great PR hound is, to me, is basically a whole lot of nothing.
Won't the truth be told in what the results are? I mean, let's say we try this out for a couple of years, and then we'll see what happens?
You know, I think the truth will be told. And also we have to remember that the devil is in the details. This is a man, Hugo Chavez, who in the past has supported things such as drug trafficking. And then, as I recall, last week, weren't we just in Mexico going against the exact same thing? So it's almost, the president is wearing two hats. And I think that and everything needs to be taken into full consideration.
All right, we've got another topic that we want to bring to the pit in just a moment. And then, welcome back, everyone. Well, question for you this morning. Is the Obama administration trying to put the kibosh on free speech? Listen to what senior White House advisor David Axelrod had to say about last week's tea parties.
I think any time that you have severe economic conditions, there is always an element of disaffection that can mutate into something that's unhealthy.
Unhealthy. So what is the White House afraid of? We're back in the pit. Brandon, let me turn to you. Unhealthy. It looked like he was struggling for the word to describe what he thought about those tea parties. And instead of saying something else, he came up with unhealthy?
You know, I was actually one of the speakers at the Tea Party, and I find it appalling that this gentleman would say that it's unhealthy and it's un-American. I think this was actually more American than anything that this administration has done. And from, like I said, the political partisanship that many people have criticized it, there were Democrats, there were Republicans, and there were independents. And I think that that's the message did not get out. So, you know, I go against this statement. I think it was way off. And I think that for this man to be that senior and to make a statement about the American people right now, I think it's appalling.
KT, unhealthy just because these people didn't agree with the Obama administration? Is that why it was unhealthy?
I don't think they get it. I mean, this was not an anti-tax rally. This was an anti-Washington rally. And that's the difference. It wasn't people who were complaining about their taxes. It was people who were complaining about spending and about pork barrels and about bailouts. I was in the White House during the anti-war demonstrations of the 1970s. This is very similar. This is real people complaining about real things. And I think it's not going away. And I agree with Brandon. We were both there speaking in Lower Manhattan. There were almost 13,000 people there. And they were not crazy. They were not unhealthy. They were housewives from the suburbs, college students.
I interviewed a lot of them. I know. Yeah. 4 moms down in Orlando started the whole thing down there. Bernard, how are you going to defend this?
Look, I have to say, obviously, poor choice of words. I'm sure Axelrod wishes he could have taken that characterization back. But the truth is that was it was far more glitz than substance. It was a great PR move. I gotta hand it to you. But how hard can it be in this economy where people are struggling to get people to come out and protest about paying taxes? I don't like paying taxes either.
It wasn't about paying taxes, and that's the mistake
it was a Boston Tea Party about taxes. If it wasn't about a complaint about paying taxes, they marketed it wrong.
I was there, okay? I talked to people. They were not there. Nobody likes taxes. You're absolutely right. This was different. This was about, we have tripled the deficit in 1 year. Who's going to pay for that?
You and I both know that this president has cut taxes for 95% of Americans, and those tax cuts have already started.
It's not about taxes, Bernard. That's the point. People, it's not like that CNN reporter said, you've had your taxes cut, why are you complaining? People are complaining because they're saddling their children with debts that their children are going to have to pay. They're complaining because of pork barrel spending where their congressman can't get a hold of it.
And in large measure, we have to take these steps because of the past administration's failure to properly regulate and properly give oversight to this economy.
If I hear another Democrat mention that, well, what about 8 years of Bush? When is this president going to step up and take responsibility? The buck stops here. And the American people answered on April 15th that said, we're not taking this anymore. We are not continuing to waste more money that we simply do not have.
All right. Got to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for the energetic pit so early in the morning. Let's see what Brian and Steve are up to in the green room.